Giving yourself something to overcome so that you can become strong, so that you can believe in yourself. So then the future of possibilities open up to you. Can you open a business? Dude, if you were given a diploma with 26 credits, if you were told your whole life that you're weak, if you were told that you were dependent on other people, why on earth would you ever open a business? You have to have courage. You have to have faith. And faith is not just like blind hope, like fingers crossed. I hope this works. No, faith is you have a reason to believe. You give yourself a reason to believe because you've overcome challenges in the past. And so if you deny yourself that opportunity, you deny yourself the confidence to do great things in your life, to take chances and do great things. I can already hear it in people's heads. Like, I would never. Yeah.
It could kind of be used as like a sense of hope.
So how do you mean? How do you mean that?
Like, you can see it. You see it sometimes where when you're hopeful about something, like the leader will make the people intentionally hopeful, but not enough hopeful so that you still depend on them.
That's smart. Can you give me an example of that?
For example, like when a leader would. Do you guys know the experiment where like you put a certain type of insect in a jar and then you cover the lid on top of it and they try and jump out?
Mm-hmm.
And then you uncap it and they can't jump out anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like once you take it off, it kind of gives like the insect a sense of hope that they can jump that far, but now they can't. So now they're kind of just dependent on it.
Yeah. So in that case, you're robbing an insect of their hope. There actually is a psychological term for that. It's called learned helplessness. You teach people to be helpless. And you do see a lot of that. When you listen to politicians talk, think about how often, when you get to that point, when you listen to politicians talk, you'll hear them a lot of times talking about how, look how unfair the world is. And then we all kind of sit there and nod our heads and go, yeah, the world's unfair. And so, we need to have policies in place to make the world more fair. And then we all kind of go, yeah. Think about what you've just accepted. You've just accepted that you can't get ahead without that person's help. You need to vote for them because they need to put policies in place because, as you know, the world is unfair. They don't really specify exactly how. And they also don't talk about the ways in which the world is unfair in your favor as well. We tend to only focus on the ways in which we think it's unfair in ways that negatively impact us. But as soon as a politician or any leader at all can come along and make you feel like you need them, well, now you're not able to jump out of that bottle on your own. And we can even point to lots of examples, like there are all kinds of insects who jumped out of that bottle on their own. There are all kinds of people who have come out of our neighborhoods and made it. But you know what? Those are the exception. You need these policies in place, and I'm the one who's going to give them to you. Well, we've now accepted that we need somebody to get us to where we want to go. We can't do it on our own. So now the question, so then even if you do get there, can you ever really enjoy it? Because you only got there because someone gave it to you. Somebody put you there. You didn't actually earn it. Somebody else kind of like lifted you up and then you got there. And so that's an example, certainly, of handing over our minds to people. And that really is what it is. It's an insult. Fun fact: you guys wouldn't have caught this. At that, what day was it? Tuesday? Today's Wednesday. Monday, when we went to that assembly and they talked to you guys about the expectations. Who can tell me how many credits do you need to graduate? 44 credits, right? You need them. Must have 44 credits. No, not 44 credits, you cannot graduate. That means you need, and then the kinds of credits that you need are established. You need 4 years of English. You have to pass first and second semester of all 4 years of English. You need, I think it's 2 years or 3 years of math, so on and so forth, right? You need them. I was laughing when I told you that because we haven't had a class graduate with 44 credits in 5 years. ever since 2020, you've only needed 26. And every year they tell the seniors, you have to have 44 credits. Every year they tell the juniors and the sophomores and the freshmen coming up, you must have 44 credits. And then when it comes time to graduate, they change it in the last week or two of graduation. And then they let people go through. Why? Because remember way back in 2020, 5 years ago, we had like a virus that went around and it gave some people the sniffles, COVID. Yeah. So if you remember, you guys probably remember this. And so you guys would have been like 5th grade then. Remember the second semester you went home and you did school online, which means you turn your computer on and walk away from it and don't turn your camera. Yeah. So ever since then they've said, well, clutching my pearls and making sure we understand the poor seniors who were graduating that year, they didn't get an opportunity to get their credit second semester. Now, how many credits do you get second semester? It's only 6. But they said, you know what? It just isn't fair. So we're going to go ahead and put together an emergency plan that seniors only need 26 credits to graduate. That's 40% fewer classes, which means that if you passed all of your classes by the end of your sophomore year, you were finished. You didn't need to come the last 2 years. And so if you're that person who didn't come the last 2 years, but you passed all your stuff the first 2 years, there's actually only one class that you needed after that, and that was government, which you take as a senior. But other than that, as long as you just said, yeah, I didn't pass all my classes, but I had a hardship. What's the hardship? I don't know. What's our favorite one now? I have anxiety. Oh my God, you poor kid. You have anxiety. Well, we can't expect you to graduate and pass all your classes if you have anxiety. So you know what? We can come along and save you. And that's all you had to say. In fact, that's all you have to say right now to get your number of credits reduced from 44 to 26. And they said that the first year with the seniors. They said because COVID messing people up. Not everybody has internet access. Because it's so hard to come by in 2020 in National City. It's silly. And even though Cox came along and said we give free internet access to everybody during this pandemic, they still said, yeah, but, and they made excuses for a lot of people. And then they came along the next year and they said, all right, we're back to 44 credits. But then they said, but you know what, last year, the juniors who are now seniors in 2021, they were affected by this as well. So they dropped it back down to 26 credits. And then when the next group came up, and they were the sophomores who became seniors, they say, but you know what? They were sophomores when this happened. They were struggling too. Last year, they gave out grad plans again, 26 credits to graduate for people who were in 8th grade when COVID happened. And so we're talking about this afterwards, and I was laughing about it because the counselors get very upset that I tell you guys this stuff. But I tell you because it's true. And then they say, but there's no guarantee that they're going to have a grad plan. It's like, yeah, but you're going to, probably. And then they were saying, but the seniors who are coming through right now, because I told them the same thing, you have to have 44 credits to graduate. And then I laughed and said, that's not going to happen. And they said, but they were in 7th grade when COVID happened. Yeah, and the seniors last year were in 8th grade. What's the difference between 8th grade and 7th grade? If you think about it, 7th grade is kind of the same as 6th. And 6th isn't too far off from 5th, which is almost close to 4th. In other words, the whole thing never stops. Why? Because here's the message that you're getting from this. Whether you realize it or not, here's what they think about you. You are weak. You are pathetic. You guys, not really smart. You guys are intellectually underdeveloped, emotionally underdeveloped. This isn't me telling you this. But that's the message that gets it. And that's why you need us to step in and save you and give you a diploma with 26 credits. Because if they thought you were strong, here's what they would say. Yeah, you had a hard time. Overcome it. Yeah, there was a challenge. Overcome it. How do you become stronger? Is it by lifting weights or is it by looking at the weights? Do you become stronger by lifting the weights or having me come over and lift those weights for you? That's the message that they send. And many people will sit around and say, all right, 26 credits, all right. Last year and the year before that, we had 70% of our seniors graduate with less than 44 credits, which means that 70% of our seniors sat there and said, I had anxiety or something. Oh, I didn't have reliable internet access at home. That's all you have to say. And then they go, oh, okay, then we'll give you the diploma. Now, of course, it begs the question, what's that diploma worth? The past few years, that's all you had to say, what's the diploma worth? And so the people will come along and they'll feel like, oh, I'm compassionate, I'm helping you. Is it really helping you, though? What have you learned? Well, you've learned that you don't actually need to do it, that there'll always be an excuse made for you, that people, if they think that you're weak, they will just fix it for you. But then you go in the real world, and what happens? Nothing at all like that. You know, part of school, part of a job, part of life is to face challenges and overcome them. And it might be like, yeah, but that challenge is really hard. Yeah, so as though something being difficult is enough of a reason not to do it. And if you are weak, well then yeah, I guess it being difficult is reason enough not to do it. But my goodness, think about the things in life that are worth doing. Like, is there anything in life that's worth doing that isn't difficult? Because if you do something easy, well then it's easy, it's no problem. If you overcome some challenge, now you have a sense of achievement. I've done something that matters, I've overcome this. If somebody else comes along and does it for you, you lack that. You lack that. And that's a bad thing because you're deprived of that. I hope you can see this spiral that will happen. We walk through life, hands jammed in our pockets. I don't believe in myself. Oh, I have anxiety because I don't believe in myself. I'm not sure of myself. Why would you be sure of yourself? If every time you have a challenge, somebody else comes along and says, let me fix it for you. You've never had to overcome anything. Why would you believe that you can overcome anything at all? If everybody around you is sending you the message that they think that you're weak, then why on earth would you ever think that you were strong? I mean, can everybody who's telling you that be wrong? And the truth of the matter is that you're not weak unless you let yourself be weak. Of course, if you just stare at the weights, you don't become stronger. If you don't engage the challenge, and engage the challenges willingly, that is a hard part, but if you can look at the challenges of your life and engage them willingly, not because you have to, not because you're forced to, but because you say, it's worth testing myself. It's worth overcoming something, doing things I don't want to do to get something to prove that I can overcome. Because once you overcome one thing, that gives you a little bit of hope in yourself to overcome something else. There's no reason to have hope and faith in ourselves unless we've overcome something before. Unless we have a reason to hope and have faith in ourselves. Thanks, sir. Okay. So, my point is that even if we adopt that mindset of, oh yeah, but it's difficult, I don't know if I can, you've handed your mind over to people who don't have your best interest at heart. People who want you to be weak, they don't want you to be weak because it's good for you. They want you to be weak because they want you to depend on them in the same way that we can get the bugs to depend on us, the same way, which is how they see us, by the way. Or if they can get, if a leader can get you to depend on them, they can depend on you to vote. Giving yourself something to overcome so that you can become strong, so that you can believe in yourself. So then the future of possibilities open up to you. Can you open a business? Dude, if you were given a diploma with 26 credits, if you were told your whole life that you're weak, if you were told that you were dependent on other people, why on earth would you ever open a business? You have to have courage. You have to have faith. And faith is not just like blind hope, like fingers crossed. I hope this works. No, faith is you have a reason to believe. You give yourself a reason to believe because you've overcome challenges in the past. And so if you deny yourself that opportunity, you deny yourself the confidence to do great things in your life, to take chances and do great things. And so it is a really big thing. Yeah, if someone takes your body and they put you someplace else, yeah, you've been human trafficked. And now the problem with it is that, in that case, at least you have a clear objective. How do I get out of here? How do I get free of here? The really pernicious, the really dangerous one is the second one, when someone takes your mind and actually convinces you that you can't jump out of the bottle, that you need them, that you can't overcome without them. Because those are limitations you'll place on yourself your whole life. Last thing, in the same way, you guys ever heard of how they train circus elephants? You guys ever seen that before? They take, elephants when they're babies. They basically put like a collar on them, and then they take a stake and they drive it into the ground. When they're a little baby elephant, they can't get away from that stake. They've been conditioned to believe they can't, so they don't even try. And then when they never try, they just walk in circles. Man, this sucks being tied to this stake. Getting like little pit bulls as puppies, same thing. If you have like a Chihuahua, not Chihuahua, well, yeah, we'll go with Chihuahua, and that Chihuahua bullies the little pit bull puppy, when that pit bull grows up, it's still afraid of the Chihuahua because it remembers how it was when it was a baby. It doesn't realize it's grown bigger and stronger. And so careful if that happens to you. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Dope.